Welcome, my name is Jonathan. There has been a video on the channel presenting the FSPilot add-on for FS 2020 just a little while ago. I realized that, but given all the changes we made, and I figured presenting the vision, demonstrating what we have right now, and giving you a little bit of an insight in what the future might be actually makes sense. So we are here for a new video. Let's get right into it. So the vision of FSFerryPilot. Let's start with what is FSFerryPilot. For those of you who haven't watched the first video, um, it's a career add-on for Flight Simulator 2020, and as the name suggests, this add-on is about ferry flying. So why do that, you might wonder? Well, let's start with why would you need a career add-on in the first place? Uh, to me, flying with purpose is more fun. When I started flying with FS 2020 a couple of years ago, after about 20, 30 hours, uh, you've run out of places to fly, basically, and you're just flying random and it gets boring. So a lot of people actually use career add-ons to make things more interesting. Um, you might have an add-on or join a virtual airline, anything like that. So I tried and investigated different career type options like add-ons and virtual airlines for FS 2020. And I found that they were either too restrictive, they didn't have enough replay value, they were not restrictive enough in some cases, so you still end up choosing what to fly yourself. Um, some ended up being very repetitive. Some were actually some good but very expensive, and some had just too much focus on management outside of flying. So you would be managing your finances and your colleagues and stuff like that in the virtual world instead of flying an aircraft. So I figured I can do better. So why ferry flying, you might wonder? Well, I think ferry flying is very fascinating. I've been following ferry pilots, real life ferry pilots online for a while, and it seems like a very interesting thing to do. Uh, and the other reason is there is nothing like this around. There is no other career add-on for a flight simulator that deals with ferry flying. So I figured I'd give it a try. Now, in order for us to build something like this, I figured I need some broad stroke requirements of what I want FSFerryPilot to be. And I came up with three basically. The first one is you want to focus on flying. I mentioned before there were career add-ons that were really focused on managing other things. And I'm not interested in that. I just want to fly. That doesn't mean you cannot have a financial part. Uh, it just has to be not focused on that. The next thing is it should provide some level of freedom. Freedom in choosing what aircraft to fly, freedom in choosing your routes, and freedom in how to complete a mission. And we'll get back to that in the demo. And the final point is it should provide a challenge. Now, that might conflict with provider freedom at some points. You might have to sometimes be restrictive in order to get a challenge with an add-on like this. But we try to balance the two. So next, we'll hop into a demo. We're going to see what's currently there and how that aligns with the vision, and you can be the judge of that. Um, so I'll bring up the tool for the add-on. There it is. And as you can see, we start up with pilot selection dialog where you can select a pilot. You can also create a new one. We won't do that right now. I've been testing with this. And I'll just use my personal account because it has the most real life data in there. After I select that, you get this window. In this case, I already have a selected flight, which is why we get into the current flight tab. But I wanted to also point out that on top here, you see the current pilot. and you see the balance, so the amount of dollars that is in the bank account right now. Coming back to the current flight tab, there's a couple of buttons. You can connect to the sim. This connects you to connects the add-on to Flight Simulator 2020, which allows us to track the flight that you're doing. If you're done flying with FSFerryPilot, you want to fly without the add-on, you can disconnect from the sim if that's what you want to do. And let's say you don't want to do this flight, really, you can cancel it at any time and you come back to the select flight tab. A couple of things to note here is that the add-on will track your hours. It will log them for you. So that's important to know. And it will do that by uh, whenever you start moving the aircraft under your own power until the point where you park the aircraft, shut down the engine. That means shutting down the engine and putting on the parking brake, and then it will record that as your flight being done. Whenever you do that, you may not have reached your destination. If you look at this flight, this is in a DA40. This would take about 13 hours direct, which you cannot do with a DA40, but you can land basically any other airport, and it will record that location. And if you don't want to continue flying, you just shut down the app, shut down the sim, and come back whenever you're ready to fly the next leg. That's part of the freedom vision of FSFerryPilot. Now let's go into the Select Flight tab. This is where you choose your mission, the one you want to fly, and it consists of 3 columns, as you can see. The first two filter the flights in the third column. So you can select an aircraft you want to fly, it will filter out the flights. You can select a minimum and maximum distance, you can select flight types. Won't go into any detail there right now. And then these flights will be filtered out. Third column has a button called Free Flying. This allows you to fly without a mission. Note that this does cost money. The airplane you select in the sim is rented for this flight. So rent is paid by the hour. The fee varies by type. As you can see below that, there's a great number of flights currently. The algorithm makes sure that flights are available with any of the supported aircraft with a variety of distances and from a variety of locations. The flights also mention rewards. These rewards are based on an estimated time that it would be needed to complete the flight. Let's go into the pilot log tab next. The app keeps track of this pilot log, as we mentioned earlier, completely automatically. So it detects the aircraft starts moving under its own power and all the way up to engine shutdown and parking brake sets. Next is the bank account tab. This is where you can find your financial information. Again, this is all done automatically, so it will keep track of any transactions that need to be made. And if you go through them right now, you can see if you create an account, you get some starting capital. I did complete a mission, which is this delivery mission, which paid $1,153. Then I rented a DA40 for an hour, twice actually, for different trips. They get deducted, and then I moved from Japan, in this case, to the US, and paid a fee of $4,435 for that move, which is called, which is categorized under travel. This last one is actually dependent on an option, which we see here, which says new flight overrides the current location. I selected a new flight, which is the current flight at this point, and because of that, my location changed and I traveled there virtually. Didn't have to do anything for that, it just automatically did that, automatically took care of the finances, and I can just focus on flying. So that concludes the demo for right now. We'll go back to the slides. And we want to talk a little bit about what's in the future. Talk about the roadmap. One thing to note, as most people talking about a roadmap for software, this is subject to change. I'm currently working on this alone, so there's no schedule. This is just my free time. I will not go into the details of every feature in this presentation. So these are the steps that we have for the current future. Um, the first one is we'll need an installer, which makes deployment a lot easier. And it also includes an update process for any changes that we need to make, mainly in the data. And the plan is to release a beta after the installer is ready. So before any of the other features are implemented, we'll probably come up with a beta version. After the beta release, we'll work on options. And with options, I mean customizing the experience. So you might want to turn the financial component on or off. You might want to turn off total time requirements. You might want to be able to turn off time on type requirements. And for any future features, we might need additional options to allow you to be free in customizing your experience. Ferry tanks is what it says on the tin. You should be able to fly an aircraft with ferry tanks. Then we go on to failures. Again, that speaks for itself. And in the end, it names a feature called customs. Now, customs is a feature that will be added inside the mission. If you ferry an aircraft between different countries, you're usually required to clear customs. And this is not available at every airport. So the plan is to have you stop at an airport that has a customs office, which is also named an airport of entry. And of course, during all this, there will be quality of life updates that run throughout. You can think of bug fixes, small UI improvements, etc. This does also not include any organizational steps, so things like a website, a place to distribute the releases, documentation, support, etc. We're just not there yet. And throughout the process, we'll also be updating our data with new locations and new aircraft, and with any new features that we need in this data. So that was the roadmap. And after all that, what can you expect from us? Well, here's where we are right now. We're still testing some stuff, completing the final testing, and then we'll obviously get to the installer, the deployment process. And once these two are done, you can expect a beta release right after that. Any announcement on that will be done right here on the channel. So if you don't want to miss out, please subscribe. I thank you for watching, and if you have any questions or feedback, please leave a comment.